What kind of mother believes baking her victims into cookies and turning their bodies into soap will protect her son from harm? Leonarda Cianciulli, known as the Soap-Maker of Correggio, was a seemingly ordinary Italian woman whose chilling crimes in the 1940s shocked a nation and revealed a twisted blend of maternal love and murderous madness. If this horrifying tale of a killer hiding behind a warm smile hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to uncover the dark story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. Could you imagine eating a dessert baked by a serial killer? Born in 1894 in Montella, Italy, Leonarda Cianciulli was a petite, soft-spoken woman who ran a small shop in Correggio, a quiet town in northern Italy. To neighbors, she was a doting mother and fortune-teller, offering tea and advice with a kindly demeanor. But between 1939 and 1940, she killed 3 women, dismembered their bodies, and transformed them into soap and cookies, believing these acts were sacrifices to save her beloved son, Giuseppe, from danger. Her crimes, uncovered in 1940, horrified Italy, earning her the moniker Soap-Maker of Correggio. Unlike typical serial killers, Cianciulli's motives were rooted in superstition and a mother's desperate love, making her both pitiable and monstrous. Cianciulli's early life was marked by tragedy and belief in the occult. Growing up in a poor family, she faced a troubled childhood with a mother who despised her and a history of suicide attempts. At 14, she was told by a fortune-teller that her children would die, a prophecy that haunted her. She married Raphael Pansardi in 1917, defying her mother's wishes, and later claimed a curse followed her as she suffered 13 miscarriages and lost 10 of her 17 children. By the 1930s, only 4 children survived with Giuseppe, her favorite becoming her obsession. When he joined the Italian army in 1939, facing World War II's dangers, Cianciulli turned to dark rituals, believing human sacrifices could protect him. What's shocking about Cianciulli was her chilling pragmatism. Her memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, written in prison, details her crimes with eerie calm. She lured 3 lonely women, Faustina Setti, Francesca Suavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, to her home under the guise of friendship or fortune-telling. She killed each with an axe, drained their blood, and processed their bodies into soap and tea cakes, which she served to neighbors, and ate herself. Police reports from 1940 confirm she melted bodies with caustic soda, producing creamy soap she gifted to friends. Her cookies baked with human fat and blood were described as delicious by unsuspecting guests, a detail that stunned investigators. The emotional toll on Correggio was immense. The town, a close-knit community of $10,000, was shattered when Cianciulli's crimes were exposed. Neighbors who savored her treats were horrified, some vomiting upon learning their origin. Women who trusted her as a confidant felt betrayed, with one recalling her warm hospitality in a 1940 interview. The discovery of Cacioppo's disappearance, linked to Cianciulli's shop, sparked a police investigation that unraveled her horrors. Italy, already gripped by wartime fear, was stunned by a mother's descent into murder, with newspapers like Corriere della Sera calling her a monster in a housewife's guise. The societal backdrop of 1940s Italy amplified Cianciulli's infamy. World War II brought fear and superstition, with many Italians turning to fortune-tellers like Cianciulli for hope. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in folk traditions resonated with a society on edge. Her crimes, blending domesticity with horror, challenged the era's image of women as nurturing figures. Modern psychologists suggest she suffered from delusional disorder, her maternal instincts warped by trauma and superstition. Her influence on pop culture, while less direct than other killers, inspired works like Dario Argento's horror films, reflecting Italy's fascination with her macabre legacy. How did Cianciulli's superstitions drive her to such gruesome acts, and what pushed her to kill? In the next part, we'll explore her descent into murder and the rituals that defined her madness. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about Leonarda Cianciulli's horrifying crimes? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The descent into madness. What drives a mother to believe that murdering women and baking their remains into cookies will shield her son from death? Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap-Maker of Correggio, turned her small Italian home into a slaughterhouse. In the late 1930s, her crimes blending maternal devotion with horrifying rituals that shocked a nation. If this chilling tale of a killer's twisted logic hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most disturbing figures. Drop a comment. Could you imagine a mother's love turning so deadly? 1939, Leonarda Cianciulli, a 45-year-old shopkeeper in Correggio, Italy, was a respected figure in her community of 10,000, known for her fortune-telling and warm hospitality. Beneath her kindly exterior, however, lay a mind consumed by fear and superstition. Her obsession with protecting her favorite son, Giuseppe, from the dangers of World War II led her to commit 3 murders between 1939 and 1940, transforming her victims' bodies into soap and tea cakes. These gruesome acts, uncovered in 1940, horrified Italy, revealing a woman whose love for her son twisted into a macabre mission. Cianciulli's descent into murder was not a sudden impulse, but a chilling progression rooted in her troubled past and a belief in blood sacrifices. Cianciulli's early life was steeped in trauma and occult beliefs. Born in 1894 in Montella, Italy, she endured a harsh childhood under a mother who despised her, fostering deep insecurities. At 14, a fortune-teller's prophecy that her children would die haunted her, amplified by 13 miscarriages and the loss of 10 of her 17 children. By 1939, only 4 survived, with Giuseppe, a handsome young man, becoming her fixation. When he enlisted in the Italian army, facing the perils of Mussolini's war, Cianciulli's fears intensified. Her memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, written in prison, reveals she turned to occult rituals, believing human sacrifices could break the curse she blamed for her losses. This delusion, blending folk superstition with maternal desperation, set the stage for her crimes. What's shocking about Cianciulli's descent was her methodical approach. Her first victim, Faustina Setti, a 70-year-old spinster, was lured to Cianciulli's home in September 1939 under the pretense of arranging a marriage. Cianciulli offered Setti wine laced with a sedative, then killed her with an axe. Her memoir chillingly details how she drained Setti's blood, cut her body into pieces, and boiled it with caustic soda to make soap. The fat was mixed with flour and sugar to bake tea cakes, which she served to neighbors, and ate herself, believing the sacrifice protected Giuseppe. This ritual, repeated with Francesca Soavi and Virginia Cacioppo in 1940, showed a chilling pragmatism, as she described the soap as creamy and the cakes as sweet in her confessions. The emotional toll on Cianciulli's victims and their families was heart-wrenching. Setti, a lonely woman seeking love, trusted Cianciulli's promises only to be betrayed. Soavi, a schoolteacher, and Cacioppo, an opera singer, were similarly deceived, drawn by Cianciulli's charm and offers of work or romance. Their disappearances sparked worry in Correggio, with families searching desperately. A 1940 police report notes Cacioppo's sister-in-law grew suspicious after seeing her enter Cianciulli's shop, a clue that would unravel the crimes. Neighbors who ate the tea cakes were horrified upon learning their origin, with one woman recalling in a 1940 interview how Cianciulli's kind smile masked a monster. The betrayal cut deep, shattering the town's trust. The societal backdrop of 1940s Italy fueled Cianciulli's actions. World War II brought fear and uncertainty, with Mussolini's regime glorifying sacrifice for the nation. Superstition was rampant, and fortune-tellers like Cianciulli were sought for comfort. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in Italian folk traditions resonated with a society grappling with loss. Modern psychologists suggest she suffered from delusional disorder, her maternal instincts warped by trauma, and a need for control. Her crimes challenged the era's image of women as nurturers, exposing a dark side to domesticity. Her influence on pop culture, while less direct than other killers, inspired Italian horror films like those of Dario Argento, reflecting a fascination with her gruesome creativity. Cianciulli's rituals raise chilling questions about the line between love and madness. Her memoir describes her pride in the soap's quality, gifting it to friends, and her calm when eating the tea cakes, believing they ensured Giuseppe's safety. One disturbing detail stands out. She claimed Cacioppo's blood, mixed into the cakes, gave them a special sweetness, a grotesque boast that horrified investigators. How did Cianciulli lure her victims with such precision, and what drove her to refine her horrific craft? In the next part, we'll explore the details of her murders and the chilling methods she perfected. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about Leonarda Cianciulli's twisted rituals? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The Butcher's Kitchen. How does a woman transform her cozy kitchen into a slaughterhouse? Baking human remains into cookies and crafting soap from flesh, all to save her son, Leonarda Cianciulli. The Soap-Maker of Correggio committed 3 murders in 1939-1940. Turning her victims into macabre products with a chilling precision that horrified Italy. If this gruesome tale of a killer's twisted craft hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. Could you imagine sharing tea and cookies with a murderer like Leonarda Cianciulli by 1939? Leonarda Cianciulli, a 45-year-old shopkeeper and fortune-teller in Correggio, Italy, was consumed by a superstitious belief that human sacrifices could protect her son, Giuseppe, from the dangers of World War II. Her small home, a hub of community warmth, hid a dark secret between 1939 and 1940. She killed 3 women, Faustina Setti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, dismembering their bodies and processing them into soap and tea cakes. These crimes, uncovered in 1940, stunned the town of 10,000, revealing a woman whose maternal love twisted into a horrifying ritual. Cianciulli's methods, detailed in her prison memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, showcased a chilling blend of domesticity and depravity, making her one of Italy's most notorious serial killers. Cianciulli's murders were meticulously planned, each a grotesque ritual disguised as hospitality. Her first victim, Faustina Setti, a 70-year-old spinster, was lured in September 1939 with promises of a suitor in Pola. Cianciulli invited Setti for tea, offering wine laced with a sedative. Once unconscious, Setti was killed with an axe, her body dragged to a closet for dismemberment. Cianciulli's memoir describes boiling Setti's flesh with caustic soda, producing creamy white soap she gifted to neighbors. The blood and fat were mixed with flour, sugar, and chocolate to bake tea cakes, which she served to guests, and ate herself, believing the act ensured Giuseppe's safety. This process repeated with Francesca Soavi in January 1940, and Virginia Cacioppo in September 1940, showed a chilling efficiency. What's shocking about Cianciulli's methods was their domestic horror. Soavi, a 55-year-old schoolteacher, was lured with a job offer, while Cacioppo, a 53-year-old former opera singer, was promised work in Florence. Each woman, lonely and trusting, visited Cianciulli's home, where they were drugged, axed, and dismembered. Police reports from 1940 detail her processed bodies were cut into pieces, boiled for hours, and rendered into soap, while blood was collected in a basin to flavor cakes. Cianciulli claimed Cacioppo's fat made the best soap, describing its texture with pride. She baked dozens of tea cakes, sharing them with neighbors who praised their taste, unaware of their gruesome ingredients. This betrayal blending kindness with murder horrified Correggio. The emotional toll on the victims' families and the community was profound. Setti's relatives, expecting her to start a new life, were devastated when she vanished. Soavi's disappearance left her family searching, while Cacioppo's sister-in-law, suspicious after seeing her enter Cianciulli's shop, alerted police, sparking the 1940 investigation. Neighbors who enjoyed Cianciulli's hospitality were sickened, with one woman recalling in a 1940 Corriere della Sera interview how she savored the sweet tea cakes only to retch upon learning their origin. The town's trust shattered, with residents questioning every friendly gesture. Women who once confided in Cianciulli felt violated their sense of safety, destroyed by a killer who hid behind a motherly facade. The societal backdrop of 1940s Italy amplified the horror. World War II's chaos with air raids and economic hardship made people cling to figures like Cianciulli, a fortune-teller offering hope. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in Italian folk traditions resonated with a superstitious society. Mussolini's regime, emphasizing family and sacrifice, ironically echoed her warped maternal logic. Modern psychologists analyzing her memoir suggest delusional disorder, with her trauma 13 miscarriages and a harsh childhood fueling her obsession with protecting Giuseppe. Her crimes challenged Italy's image of women as caregivers, exposing a dark side to domesticity. Her influence on pop culture, while subtle, inspired Italian horror films with directors like Dario Argento, drawing on her gruesome creativity. One chilling detail stands out: Cianciulli kept detailed notes on her victims, recording their weights and yields for soap and cakes, treating murder like a recipe. Her memoir boasts that Cacioppo's blood added a unique flavor to the tea cakes, a grotesque pride that stunned investigators. This meticulousness, blending a housewife's precision with a killer's ruthlessness, made her crimes uniquely horrifying. How did Cianciulli's crimes unravel, and what happened when police closed in? In the next part, we'll explore the investigation that exposed her horrors and the trial that gripped Italy. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about Leonarda Cianciulli's gruesome methods? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The investigation that shattered a town. What happens when a trusted neighbor's kindness is revealed as a mask for murder, with her victims baked into cookies and boiled into soap? Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap-Maker of Correggio, turned her Italian home into a slaughterhouse, killing 3 women in 1939-1940 to protect her son, only to be unmasked by a relentless investigation that horrified a nation. If this chilling tale of a killer's exposure hooks you, smash that subscribe button, like this video, and share it to spread the story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. Could you imagine discovering your neighbor was a murderer, like Leonarda Cianciulli? By 1940, Leonarda Cianciulli, a 46-year-old shopkeeper and fortune-teller in Correggio, Italy, had committed 3 murders, transforming her victims, Faustina Setti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, into soap and tea cakes she shared with neighbors. Her crimes, driven by a superstitious belief that human sacrifices would save her son Giuseppe from World War II's dangers, remained hidden in the town of 10,000 until a single clue sparked a police investigation. The 1940 probe and subsequent trial not only exposed Cianciulli's horrors, but shook Italy, revealing a woman whose maternal love twisted into a gruesome ritual. Her calm confessions, detailed in her prison memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, stunned investigators, cementing her infamy as the Soap-Maker of Correggio. The investigation began in late 1940, when Virginia Cacioppo, a 53-year-old former opera singer, vanished after visiting Cianciulli's shop. Cacioppo's sister-in-law, suspicious after seeing her enter, alerted police, who initially dismissed the concern as wartime chaos. but persistent inquiries led to Cianciulli's home, where officers found a chilling scene. Police reports from October 1940 describe a small, tidy shop with a back room containing an axe, a blood-stained basin, and vats of caustic soda. Searching further, they uncovered soap bars with an eerie, creamy texture and a tin of tea cakes, later confirmed to contain human fat. Cacioppo's jewelry found in Cianciulli's possession linked her to the crime, unraveling the fates of Setti and Soavi. What's shocking about the investigation was Cianciulli's composure. Arrested in October 1940, she confessed with unsettling calm, describing how she lured each woman with promises of love, work or fortune, then killed them with an axe after drugging their wine. Her memoir details boiling their bodies to make soap and baking their fat and blood into cakes which she served to neighbors and ate herself, believing it protected Giuseppe. Investigators were horrified by her precision, noting she recorded each victim's weight and yield for soap-treating murder like a recipe. One officer quoted in a 1940 Corriere della Sera report described finding a human bone fragment in a soap vat, a discovery that left him nauseated. The realization that neighbors had consumed her tea cakes sent shockwaves through Correggio. The emotional toll on the community was devastating. Correggio, a close-knit town, reeled as residents learned their trusted fortune-teller was a killer. Neighbors who enjoyed her hospitality were sickened, with one woman recalling in a 1940 interview how she praised Cianciulli's delicious tea cakes, now knowing their gruesome origin. The families of Setti Soavi and Cacioppo were shattered. Setti's relatives mourned a lonely woman seeking love, while Cacioppo's sister-in-law blamed herself for not acting sooner. The town's women, once open with Cianciulli, grew distrustful, locking doors and avoiding her shop's ruins. Crowds gathered outside her home, some calling for her execution, as the betrayal cut deep in a community already strained by war. The societal backdrop of 1940s Italy amplified the horror. World War II's turmoil, with Mussolini's regime pushing propaganda of sacrifice, made Cianciulli's crimes both shocking and oddly resonant. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in folk superstitions reflected a society clinging to occult hope amid chaos. The trial, held in June 1946 after war delays, captivated Italy. Cianciulli, unrepentant, defended her actions as a mother's duty, claiming the sacrifices saved Giuseppe, who survived the war. Prosecutors presented her soap and tea cakes as evidence, horrifying the courtroom. Found guilty of 3 murders, she was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in an asylum, a verdict that sparked debate about justice versus madness. Some pitied her devotion, others demanded harsher punishment. Cianciulli's crimes influenced pop culture, though less overtly than other killers. Italian horror films like those of Dario Argento drew on her domestic horror, blending everyday settings with grotesque acts. Modern psychologists analyzing her memoir suggest delusional disorder, fueled by childhood trauma and wartime stress, with her 13 miscarriages intensifying her obsession with Giuseppe. One chilling detail emerged during the trial. Cianciulli claimed she drank Cacioppo's blood, mixed with wine, believing it strengthened her ritual, a confession that left jurors pale. This grotesque act underscored her descent into a warped reality, blending love with horror. How did Cianciulli's trial and confinement shape her legacy, and what myths grew around her name? In the next part, we'll explore her time in prison, the public's reaction, and the beginnings of her dark legend. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about the investigation that exposed Leonarda Cianciulli's crimes? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The trial of the Soap-Maker. What happens when a mother's love turns her into a monster, baking her victims into cookies and boiling them into soap, only to face a nation's judgment? Leonarda Cianciulli. The Soap-Maker of Correggio stood trial in 1946 for the murders of 3 women, her crimes exposing a chilling blend of devotion and depravity that stunned Italy. If this shocking tale of a killer's reckoning hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most disturbing figures. Drop a comment. Could you imagine a courtroom confronting horrors as grotesque as Leonarda Cianciulli's? Leonarda Cianciulli, a 46-year-old fortune teller in Correggio, Italy, had killed 3 women, Faustina Setti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, turning their bodies into soap and tea cakes to protect her son, Giuseppe, from World War II's dangers. Her crimes uncovered after an investigation sparked by Cacioppo's disappearance horrified the town of 10,000, shattering its trust. The 1946 trial, delayed by wartime chaos, became a national spectacle as Italy grappled with a woman whose maternal love twisted into ritualistic murder. Cianciulli's confessions, detailed in her prison memoir An Embittered Soul's Confessions, revealed a chilling logic, making her both a figure of pity and terror. The trial, held in June 1946 in Reggio Emilia, was a media frenzy. Cianciulli faced charges of 3 counts of murder, robbery, and corpse desecration. Prosecutors presented gruesome evidence: bars of soap made from human fat, a tin of tea cakes laced with blood, and Cacioppo's jewelry found in Cianciulli's home. Her memoir describes her calm demeanor, admitting she lured each victim with promises of love or work, drugged them with wine, and killed them with an axe. She boiled their bodies with caustic soda, producing soap she gifted to neighbors, and baked their remains into cakes shared with unsuspecting guests. Court records note her pride in the soap's creamy texture, a detail that left jurors visibly shaken. The courtroom, packed with reporters from Corriere della Sera and La Stampa, buzzed with horror and fascination. What's shocking about the trial was Cianciulli's unrepentant stance. She defended her actions as a mother's duty, claiming the sacrifices ensured Giuseppe's survival in the war. "I gave life to my son through their deaths," she stated, according to a 1946 trial transcript, her voice steady as she described drinking Cacioppo's blood to strengthen her ritual. Prosecutors argued she was a calculating killer, not a delusional mother, pointing to her meticulous records of each victim's yield. The defense claimed insanity, citing her 13 miscarriages and childhood trauma as triggers for delusional disorder. After a 3-day trial, she was found guilty, sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum, a verdict that sparked debate. Some demanded execution. Others saw her as a tragic figure warped by superstition. The emotional toll on Correggio was profound. Neighbors who savored Cianciulli's tea cakes were traumatized, with one woman recalling in a 1946 interview how she vomited for days after learning their origin. The families of Setti Soavi and Cacioppo mourned deeply. Setti's relatives grieved a lonely woman seeking love, while Cacioppo's sister-in-law felt guilt for not acting sooner. The town's women, once open with Cianciulli, grew guarded, their trust in community shattered. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, some shouting monster, others weeping for the victims. The 1940 investigation's discovery of a blood-stained axe and human bone fragments in Cianciulli's shop lingered in residents' minds, a grim reminder of her betrayal. The societal backdrop of post-war Italy amplified the trial's impact. In 1946, Italy was rebuilding from World War II's devastation with Mussolini's fall, leaving a nation grappling with shame and division. Cianciulli's crimes, blending domesticity with horror, challenged the era's image of women as nurturing figures. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in folk superstitions resonated with a society still clinging to occult practices amid wartime loss. The media frenzy, with headlines like "Soap-Maker's Horrors in La Stampa," turned Correggio into a symbol of hidden evil. Her crimes prefigured Italy's fascination with true crime, with her story inspiring later horror films, including Dario Argento's works, which drew on her chilling domesticity. Modern analysis sheds light on Cianciulli's psyche. Psychologists reviewing her memoir suggest delusional disorder fueled by trauma. Her mother's cruelty, multiple miscarriages, and a fortune-teller's prophecy that her children would die. Her obsession with Giuseppe, her only surviving son of military age, drove her to see murder as a protective act. Her methodical approach recording victims' weights and boasting of the soap's quality showed a chilling rationality. One disturbing detail emerged during the trial. Cianciulli claimed she used cacioppo's intestines to flavor a batch of polenta, a dish she served to her family, a confession that horrified the courtroom and cemented her monstrous image. How did Cianciulli's time in confinement shape her legacy, and what myths grew around her name? In the next part, we'll explore her years in prison, the public's fascination, and the beginnings of her dark legend. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about the trial that exposed Leonarda Cianciulli's crimes? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The prison years and the birth of a myth. What happens when a mother's monstrous crimes, baking her victims into cookies and boiling them into soap, spark a fascination that turns her into a legend? Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap-Maker of Correggio, was confined after her 1946 trial for murdering 3 women. But her story didn't end behind bars. It grew into a chilling myth that haunted Italy. If this disturbing tale of a killer's enduring infamy hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. Could you imagine a murderer like Leonarda Cianciulli becoming a dark legend? By 1946, Leonarda Cianciulli, a 52-year-old former shopkeeper and fortune-teller from Correggio, Italy, was sentenced to 30 years in prison and 3 years in a criminal asylum for killing 3 women, Faustina Setti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, whose bodies she turned into soap and tea cakes to protect her son, Giuseppe, from World War II's dangers. Her crimes, uncovered in 1940, shocked the town of 10,000 and gripped Italy during her trial. In confinement, Cianciulli's story took on a life of its own, fueled by her chilling memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, and a public both horrified and fascinated by her blend of maternal love and gruesome ritual. Her prison years and the myths that emerged cemented her as Italy's soap maker, a figure of terror and intrigue. Cianciulli's confinement began at Pozzuoli Women's Prison near Naples, where she was sent after her 1946 conviction. Later, she was transferred to a criminal asylum in Aversa for her final 3 years, released in 1970, before her death that year. Prison records describe her as a model inmate, quiet, cooperative, and often seen knitting or writing her memoir. Yet her calm demeanor unsettled guards who noted her eerie pride in her crimes. In her memoir, she detailed her murders with precision, boasting of the soap's creamy texture and the tea cake's sweetness, claiming her sacrifices saved Giuseppe, who survived the war. A 1950s prison report noted she kept a small shrine to Giuseppe with his photo, and candles, a detail that chilled staff and fueled rumors of her unrepentant obsession. What's shocking about Cianciulli's prison years was her ability to captivate. Her memoir, serialized in Italian magazines during the 1950s, drew a morbidly curious audience, with readers both repulsed and intrigued by her logic. She wrote of her childhood trauma, a cruel mother, and a fortune-teller's prophecy that her children would die as justification for her acts, framing herself as a tragic figure. This narrative sparked sympathy in some who saw her as a grieving mother, driven to madness, while others condemned her as a monster. Journalists visiting her in prison, as reported in a 1955 La Stampa article, described her soft voice and grandmotherly demeanor, a stark contrast to her crimes, which included drinking a victim's blood and baking human fat into cakes shared with neighbors. The emotional toll on Correggio lingered long after her trial. The town, still healing from World War II, struggled with its infamy as the home of the soap-maker. Neighbors who ate her tea cakes were haunted, with one man recalling in a 1950 interview how he burned his kitchen table, fearing it was tainted by her hospitality. The families of Seti Soavi and Cacioppo faced ongoing grief, with Cacioppo's sister-in-law becoming a recluse, blaming herself for not acting sooner. The community's women, once trusting, grew wary, avoiding fortune-tellers and shunning Cianciulli's former shop, which stood abandoned. The 1940 discovery of a human bone fragment in a soap vat remained a grim memory whispered about in local taverns as a symbol of betrayal. The societal backdrop of post-war Italy amplified Cianciulli's growing myth. In the late 1940s and 1950s, Italy was rebuilding from war's devastation, with a hunger for sensational stories to escape lingering trauma. Cianciulli's crimes, blending domesticity with horror, fed this appetite. True crime magazines like Cronica Vera published lurid accounts exaggerating her victim count or suggesting cannibalism, though evidence confirms only 3 murders. These stories sparked urban legends, with some claiming her soap was sold across Italy, a myth debunked but persistent. Her influence on pop culture emerged subtly with Italian horror films of the 1960s and 1970s, like those of Dario Argento, drawing on her chilling domesticity, using everyday settings to evoke terror. Modern analysis offers insight into Cianciulli's psyche. Psychologists reviewing her memoir suggest delusional disorder, with her 13 miscarriages and childhood abuse fueling her obsession with Giuseppe. Her belief in blood sacrifices, rooted in Italian folk traditions, reflected a wartime society clinging to superstition. Her methodical approach, recording victims' weights and boasting of the soap's quality, showed a chilling rationality, blending a housewife's precision with a killer's ruthlessness. One disturbing detail emerged in a 1950s prison interview. Cianciulli claimed she saw her victims' faces in the soap bubbles, believing they thanked her for their sacrifice, a delusion that horrified guards and added to her mystique. How did Cianciulli's legacy grow after her death, and what cultural impact did her crimes leave? In the next part, we'll explore her final years, the enduring fascination with her story, and the myths that solidified her as a horror icon. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about how Leonarda Cianciulli's prison years fueled her dark legend? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The making of a monster's myth. How does a mother's gruesome crimes, turning her victims into soap and cookies, grow into a legend that haunts a nation's nightmares? Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap-Maker of Correggio, died in 1970. But her horrifying acts in 1939-1940 left a legacy that transformed her from a small-town killer into a dark icon of Italian horror. If this chilling tale of a murderer's enduring myth hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. Do you think Leonarda Cianciulli's crimes alone made her a legend, or did Italy's fears amplify her infamy? By the 1950s, Leonarda Cianciulli, once a respected shopkeeper and fortune-teller in Correggio, Italy, was confined in Pozzuoli prison, and later a Versa's criminal asylum for killing 3 women, Faustina Seti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, whose bodies she turned into soap and tea cakes to protect her son, Giuseppe, from World War II's dangers. Her 1946 trial exposed her crimes, shocking the town of 10,000 toddlers and Italy at large. In her final years, Cianciulli's story grew into a myth fueled by her prison memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, and a public both repulsed and fascinated by her blend of maternal love and grotesque ritual. Her legacy, born in confinement, began to shape Italy's cultural landscape, laying the groundwork for her enduring infamy. Cianciulli's final years were spent in Aversa's criminal asylum, where she was transferred in 1967 after serving most of her 30-year sentence in Pozzuoli prison. She died in 1970 at age 76 from a cerebral hemorrhage, but her time in confinement was marked by an eerie calm. Prison records describe her as a quiet inmate, knitting, reading, and writing her memoir, which detailed her murders with chilling pride. She boasted of the soap's creamy texture and the tea cake's sweetness, claiming her sacrifices saved Giuseppe, who survived the war. A 1960s asylum report noted she kept a photo of Giuseppe by her bed, whispering to it nightly, a detail that unnerved staff and fueled rumors of her unrepentant obsession. Guards interviewed in a 1970 Cronaca Vera article described her as grandmotherly, yet terrifying, her soft demeanor clashing with her crimes. What's shocking about Cianciulli's final years was her ability to captivate from behind bars. Her memoir, serialized in Italian magazines during the 1950s and 1960s, drew a morbidly curious readership. She framed herself as a tragic figure, driven by a childhood prophecy that her children would die, and her 13 miscarriages, which she believed were a curse. Some readers pitied her, seeing a mother broken by loss, while others condemned her as a monster for drinking victims' blood and sharing human-laced tea cakes with neighbors. The media frenzy with outlets like La Stampa publishing lurid accounts exaggerated her crimes, claiming she killed dozens or sold human soap across Italy. Myths debunked, but persistent. These stories turned Correggio into a morbid tourist spot, with visitors seeking her abandoned shop, now a grim landmark. The emotional toll on Correggio remained heavy. The town, still recovering from World War II, struggled with its infamy. Neighbors who ate Cianciulli's tea cakes were haunted with one woman recalling in a 1960s interview how she couldn't bake without trembling, fearing traces of human fat. The families of Seti Soavi and Cacioppo faced lifelong grief, with Cacioppo's sister-in-law becoming a recluse, haunted by guilt. The community's women, once open, grew distrustful, shunning fortune-tellers and avoiding Cianciulli's former shop. The 1940 discovery of a blood-stained axe and human bone fragments lingered in local lore, with children whispering tales of the soapmaker's ghost haunting Correggio's streets, a myth that grew with time. The societal backdrop of 1950s and 1960s Italy amplified Cianciulli's myth. Post-war Italy, rebuilding from devastation, craved sensational stories to escape lingering trauma. True crime magazines like Cronaca Vera fed this hunger, publishing exaggerated tales of Cianciulli's crimes, some claiming she was a cannibal, though evidence confirms only 3 murders. Her story tapped into fears of hidden evil, especially in women challenging Italy's traditional view of mothers as sacred. Her influence on pop culture began to take shape, with Italian horror films of the 1960s and 1970s, like those of Dario Argento, drawing on her domestic horror. Her crimes, blending everyday settings with grotesque acts, inspired the giallo genre's focus on hidden killers, making her a subtle but powerful influence. Modern analysis sheds light on Cianciulli's psyche. Psychologists reviewing her memoir suggest delusional disorder, with her childhood abuse, miscarriages, and wartime stress fueling her obsession with Giuseppe. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in Italian folk traditions reflected a society clinging to superstition. Her methodical approach, recording victims' weights and boasting of the soap's quality, showed a chilling rationality, blending a housewife's precision with a killer's ruthlessness. One disturbing detail emerged in a 1960s prison interview. Cianciulli claimed she saw her victims' spirits in her dreams, thanking her for their sacrifice, a delusion that horrified staff and added to her mystique, making her a figure both pitiful and terrifying. How did Cianciulli's death and legacy shape Italy's fascination with horror, and what enduring impact did her crimes leave? In the next part, we'll explore the cultural fallout, the myths that solidified her infamy, and her influence on modern true crime. But first, comment below what shocks you most about how Leonarda Cianciulli's final years fueled her dark legend. Like and share, to help us bring more dark history to light. The cultural fallout and growing legend. How does a small-town mother's horrific crimes, turning her victims into soap and cookies, become a dark legend that fuels Italy's nightmares and shapes global horror? Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap-Maker of Correggio, left a scar on Italy after her 1939 to 1940 murders. Her chilling acts transforming her into a symbol of hidden evil. If this haunting tale of a killer's growing myth hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. Do you think Leonarda Cianciulli's crimes alone made her a horror icon, or did society's fears amplify her legend? By the 1960s, Leonarda Cianciulli, once a beloved shopkeeper and fortune teller in Correggio, Italy, was confined in Aversa's criminal asylum for killing 3 women, Faustina Setti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, whose bodies she turned into soap and tea cakes to protect her son, Giuseppe, from World War II's dangers. Her 1946 trial and memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, shocked Italy, but her death in 1970 didn't end her story. Instead, her crimes sparked a cultural fascination with myths and media, transforming her into the Soap-Maker of Correggio, a figure whose domestic horror influenced Italy's burgeoning true crime and horror genres. Her legacy, blending maternal love with grotesque ritual, captivated a nation and left a lasting mark on global pop culture. The cultural fallout of Cianciulli's crimes was immediate and profound. In the 1950s and 1960s, Italy was rebuilding from World War II's devastation, hungry for sensational stories to escape lingering trauma. Cianciulli's crimes, blending the mundane with the macabre, fed this appetite. True crime magazines like Cronaca Vera published lurid accounts exaggerating her victim count to dozens or suggesting she sold human soap, nationwide myths debunked but widely believed. Her memoir, serialized in these outlets, drew readers with its chilling details. She boasted of the soap's creamy texture and the tea cake's sweetness, claiming her sacrifices saved Giuseppe. By the 1960s, Correggio became a morbid tourist spot, with visitors flocking to her abandoned shop, some leaving graffiti, others stealing bricks as grim souvenirs, turning her home into a dark landmark. What's shocking about Cianciulli's growing legend was its blend of fact and fiction. Urban myths claimed her soap was used in local households, with one 1960s rumor suggesting a Correggio priest unknowingly blessed her human soap for church use, a story that horrified locals. Her crimes inspired Italy's giallo horror films, with directors like Dario Argento drawing on her domestic terror killers hiding behind everyday facades. Films like Deep Red 1975 echoed her chilling blend of normalcy and violence, cementing her influence on the genre. True crime books emerging in the 1970s detailed her story, comparing her to other female killers, though her maternal motive set her apart. Her crimes, limited to 3 murders, were amplified by their grotesque nature, making her a precursor to the serial killer fascination that gripped the West in later decades. The emotional toll on Correggio endured. The town of 10,000 house, once a picture of rural charm, struggled with its infamy. Neighbors who ate Cianciulli's tea cakes were haunted, with one man recalling in a 1970 interview how he couldn't touch baked goods without nausea. The families of Setti, Soavi, and Cacioppo faced ongoing grief, with Cacioppo's sister-in-law shunned by neighbors who blamed her for not acting sooner. The community's women, once trusting, grew wary, avoiding fortune tellers and shunning Cianciulli's shop, which stood as a grim reminder. Children told tales of the soap-maker's ghost, claiming her spirit haunted Correggio's alleys, a myth fueled by the 1940 discovery of a blood-stained axe and human bone fragment, symbols of her betrayal. The societal backdrop of post-war Italy amplified Cianciulli's impact. The 1950s and 1960s saw Italy grappling with modernization while clinging to traditional values, including the sanctity of motherhood. Cianciulli's crimes, twisting maternal love into murder, challenged this ideal, sparking debates about women's roles. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in folk superstitions resonated with a society still tied to occult practices. Media coverage with headlines like "Monster Mother in La Stampa" turned her into a symbol of hidden evil, reflecting fears of deviance in a rebuilding nation. Her story prefigured the serial killer archetype, with later figures like Ted Bundy drawing comparisons for their deceptive charm, though Cianciulli's domestic horror was uniquely chilling. Modern analysis offers insight into her myth. Psychologists reviewing her memoir suggest delusional disorder, with her 13 miscarriages, abusive childhood, and wartime stress fueling her obsession with Giuseppe. Her methodical approach, recording victims' weights and describing the soap's quality, showed a chilling rationality, blending a housewife's precision with a killer's ruthlessness. One disturbing detail emerged in a 1960s prison report. Cianciulli claimed she kept a lock of Cacioppo's hair as a talisman for Giuseppe's safety, a secret she revealed with a smile, horrifying staff. This grotesque keepsake, hidden until her death, added to her mystique, making her a figure both pitiful and terrifying. How did Cianciulli's death solidify her legacy? And what enduring impact did her crimes leave on horror and true crime? In the next part, we'll explore her final moments, the lasting cultural influence, and the myths that made her a horror icon. But first, comment below. What shocks you most about how Leonarda Cianciulli's crimes sparked a cultural obsession? Like and share to help us bring more dark history to light. The eternal horror of the soap-maker. What kind of legacy does a mother leave when her love leads to murders, with victims turned into soap and cookies shared with neighbors? Leonarda Cianciulli, the Soap-Maker of Correggio, died in 1970. But her gruesome crimes in 1939, 1940 continue to haunt Italy and inspire horror worldwide, cementing her as a dark icon. If this chilling finale of a killer's enduring myth hooks you, smash that subscribe button like this video and share it to spread the story of one of history's most shocking figures. Drop a comment. What does Leonarda Cianciulli's legacy reveal about our fascination with horror? Leonarda Cianciulli, once a beloved shopkeeper in Correggio, Italy, killed 3 women, Faustina Setti, Francesca Soavi, and Virginia Cacioppo, between 1939 and 1940, transforming their bodies into soap and tea cakes to protect her son Giuseppe from World War II's dangers. Her 1946 trial and confinement in prison and an asylum exposed her crimes, shocking the town of 10,000 tunnels and Italy at large. Her memoir, An Embittered Soul's Confessions, fueled a morbid fascination, blending maternal devotion with grotesque ritual. After her death, Cianciulli's story grew into a legend, shaping Italy's true crime and horror genres, and leaving a legacy that continues to terrify, reflecting society's fear of hidden evil in the everyday. Cianciulli's final moments came on October 15, 1970, when she died at 76 from a cerebral hemorrhage in Aversa's criminal asylum. Prison records describe her as calm until the end, knitting and writing, with a small shrine to Giuseppe by her bed. A 1970 report noted she requested her memoir be sent to Giuseppe, believing it justified her sacrifices, a wish granted, but chilling to staff. Her death closed a chapter, but her legacy exploded, driven by media myths and a public captivated by her horrors. True crime magazines like Cronaca Vera continued publishing exaggerated tales, claiming she killed dozens or haunted Correggio myths that amplified her infamy, despite evidence of only 3 murders. What's shocking about Cianciulli's legacy is its enduring grip on culture. In the 1970s and 1980s, Italy's giallo horror films, led by directors like Dario Argento, drew on her domestic terror, using everyday settings to hide killers, as seen in Deep Red 1975. Her crimes inspired true crime books with authors like Harold Schechter, comparing her to other female killers, though her maternal motive was unique. By the 1990s, her story reached global audiences through documentaries cementing her as a precursor to the serial killer archetype, alongside figures like Ted Bundy. Her influence persists in modern true crime, with podcasts like My Favorite Murder retelling her tale, fascinated by her blend of housewife charm and murderous ritual. Correggio remains a morbid draw, with tourists visiting her shop's ruins, now a grim landmark. The emotional toll on Correggio never faded. The town, forever tied to the soap-maker, struggled with shame. Neighbors who ate her tea cakes were haunted, with one woman recalling in a 1980s interview how she couldn't bake without fear imagining human fat in her dough. The families of Seti Soavi and Cacioppo faced lifelong grief, with Cacioppo's sister-in-law dying in isolation, shunned for her role in the case. Children's tales of the soap-maker's ghost persisted, fueled by the 1940 discovery of a blood-stained axe and human bone fragments, symbols of betrayal that lingered in local lore. The community's women, once trusting, grew cautious, their sense of safety shattered by a killer who hid behind a motherly facade. The societal backdrop of post-war Italy and beyond shaped Cianciulli's legacy. The 1970s saw Italy embrace modernization while grappling with traditional values, making her crimes a twisted take on motherhood, a dark mirror to societal tensions. Her belief in blood sacrifices rooted in folk superstitions reflected a lingering occult fascination. Media sensationalism with headlines like "Monster Mother in La Stampa" turned her into a symbol of hidden evil, resonating with fears of deviance in a changing world. Her story prefigured the serial killer panic, with her deceptive charm echoing later killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, though her domestic horror was uniquely chilling. Modern analysis illuminates Cianciulli's psyche. Psychologists reviewing her memoir suggest delusional disorder, with her 13 miscarriages, abusive childhood, and wartime stress fueling her obsession with Giuseppe. Her methodical approach, recording victims' weights and boasting of the soap's quality, showed a chilling rationality, blending a housewife's precision with a killer's ruthlessness. One final detail chills the bone. In her last days, Cianciulli reportedly kept a vial of Cacioppo's dried blood hidden in her cell, believing it held protective power for Giuseppe, a secret discovered after her death that horrified staff. This grotesque relic cemented her as a figure both pitiful and terrifying, a mother whose love birthed a nightmare. Cianciulli's legacy warns of the darkness beneath ordinary facades, her crimes a reminder that evil can hide in the kindest smile. If this tale of the soap-maker's horrors shocked you, hit that subscribe button, like and share to spread these haunting stories with the world. Comment below. What does Cianciulli's enduring myth reveal about our love for true crime? Your engagement helps. Weird History Unveiled bring more dark history to light. Don't miss our next dive into the strangest corners of the past. Subscribe now.